Hi guys, welcome back to the channel. We made it back home, and while I was traveling yesterday, we did get a new channel member. Wanted to shout out real quick. It is Shoop with a Tier 1 membership. Shoop, thanks for the membership, man. Glad you enjoy the videos. Really appreciate the support. Now let's jump into today's video with a little bit of silly season action continuing on. It's been all silly season all the time for the last couple of weeks here in sprint car racing. We had the news the other day about Freddie Raymer and all the other stuff that's going on as well. And now Landon Crawley and Michael Dutcher Motorsports will join the conversation as well. Landon Crawley, after this year, he has now left the Jason Sides Racing 7S. He was full-time on the World of Outlaws Tour. And next year, he will be going to the Michael Dutcher Motorsports 17 GP. This year was an intriguing one for Landon Crawley. He showed up to Volusia Speedway Park for the very first race of the year with the Outlaws, and I'm pretty sure it was his first ever time being in a 410 sprint car, and not many people knew what to expect going in. He would go out the first night and go quick time overall in a really, really stacked field of cars, and that didn't really set the tone for the year because he definitely struggled throughout the season. The kid is 16 years old. It was his first time in the 410, and he went to a bunch of new tracks as well. A lot of firsts for this kid this year. And so the numbers I'm about to talk about, obviously they're not very good in the grand scheme of things, but when you think about it with the overall experience that he had before going into the season, it was a respectable year. He wasn't out there causing problems on the racetrack, crashing people and spinning out and flipping all over the place, right? He was a respectable driver on the racetrack for his first time being out there on the big stage. He made 66 starts this year with the World of Outlaws. He did make the main event 51 times, so missed the show, according to thethirdturn.com, missed it 15 times in the features. He did have 4 top 10 finishes this season, an average finish of 17.05, and his plus minus in the main events was minus 87. So not exactly fantastic numbers, but like I said, when you consider all the things that went into this year for Landon Crawley, he would have done way better than me, I'll tell you that, and probably a lot better than most of the people watching this video. To go along with these stats, he also had 2 quick times, and we mentioned the one at the very first race of the year, which shocked the entire sprint car world. He had 2 heat race wins, he made the dash 9 times, and he had 1 hard charger effort on the year where he went 25th, so needed a provisional, but 25th to 10th at Attica Raceway Park, and that was a pretty big field there as well. A really solid run that night for Landon Crawley. Now, in my opinion, when it comes to Landon Crawley and Michael Dutcher Motorsports, both this driver and the team are in, I would say, a relatively similar position going into 2025. Landon Crawley, as we just talked about, first ever year in a 410, went on the big stage with the World of Outlaws. When it comes to Michael Dutcher Motorsports, I mean, this was the first real year for this team going out 410 wing sprint car racing and running with the big guns. They ran the IRA a little bit as well. They ran the Maverick Series, and he had 9 different drivers in the car. And so he was testing and tuning a whole bunch of different stuff, trying to figure things out. And so next year, I mean, honestly, I feel like this is a interesting pairing to watch for because they're both in similar situations. They're both just getting their feet wet. They're both trying to build themselves up into, a star driver and a star team that people want to drive for, and a driver that, people should be worried about when they get on the racetrack as far as him being a contender to win. We'll see if they can get there. Michael Dutcher, I've talked to him quite a bit over the last couple of months, and one of the big things that he is working on for next year is the engine program in that car. Dutcher is a very well-known non-wing USAC car owner for many, many years. His engines were good with USAC, but it's much different when you get to the Outlaws side of things and the high-limit side of things and 410s altogether. The engines has got to be that much better. And so next year, he said he's working on that, and that could certainly help boost this team a little bit more. You got a young guy like Landon Crawley, who in my opinion is pretty good at qualifying. Qualifying is obviously huge with, in the major series. And so we'll see what these guys can do. I want to hear your thoughts down below. What do you think about this pairing, Landon Crawley and Michael Dutcher Motorsports, both in their infancy when it comes to wing 410 sprint car racing on the big stage? Next year, it was mentioned in the post, 80 to 90 races scheduled. They don't have a schedule yet, but they're planning on running 80 to 90 races. And it doesn't sound like a series run is, out of the question. It sounds like that could still be on the table, that we could see this driver and team either go with the Outlaws or go with High Limit. What I could see definitely happening is Dutcher is based in Indiana. I'm guessing that Landon Crawley is going to move there. I'm not really sure, but that would make the most sense. He was basically living with Jason Sides this year on the road. And so I would have to think that Landon Crawley moves to Indiana. I think these guys, if they really wanted to, they could probably run the All-Star Circuit of Champions schedule when it comes out. Maybe they'll look at that and say, well, it's 40 races. I don't know. I'm just making that up. It's 40 races. We could still go run all the big shows with the big series. And when they come through town, we're going to be able to race with them. I think that is definitely a place they could end up. But on the other hand, Dutcher has messaged me and asked me about, what it takes to run high limit. What's the purse or what's the tow money and all that stuff, right? He's asked for all that stuff. So he's definitely been thinking about it. And, he's got a driver, obviously, that's coming off a full year of running with the Outlaws. So the driver's got some experience traveling up and down the road. And so maybe we'll see these guys on some kind of national tour next year. Or maybe they kind of take it a little bit slower and run the All-Stars, or maybe they run Power Eye, and then they hit the big shows with the other series. And then next year they kind of gear up for a big run at something. So definitely a lot of races planned for this driver and team next year. Now, the next question is, who could potentially get into the Sides 7S car for next year? The one thing is, with Jason Sides' car, you're going to probably need to bring some sponsorship along the way to make that ride happen. I haven't heard much as far as who could potentially be driving this car for next year, and I had heard that Landon Crawley was going to be leaving this car a few weeks ago. I knew he was making some calls to some teams. Word just gets around and stuff like that. But who could be in the 7S next year? One guy that has kind of been talked about a little bit here and there, but I think these rumors have faded away a little bit, was Chris Windham. I mean, Wyndham's got that big NOS energy drink sponsorship behind him. If he does not go back to Vermeer Motorsports next year, he could easily take that NOS energy drink sponsorship and maybe go to like a car like Jason Sides, maybe. I'm just spitballing here. I have no idea if that's even on the table, but that kind of makes some sense. And Windham obviously has some experience running with high limit this year, ran the All-Stars the year before. But unfortunately, if that did happen, that would mean Windham would be in his fourth different car in 4 years. I really do hope to see him stay in that Vermeer car because I think they would be a way better next year. We'll have to wait and see, though. He ran well at the end of the year, and maybe he could stay in there. But that's one guy that I have heard for the Side 7S. But obviously, there's still a ton of time before the season gets going in February. And a lot of guys are probably going to be calling Jason Sides to make things happen. We had Landon Crawley last year, Robbie Price the year before that. And so it's going to be something to watch for. Another silly season thing to watch for going into December. Now, this came from Landon Crawley's Facebook page. He said, quote, "Jason taught me a lot about life and racing as we traveled thousands of miles together from coast to coast. I can only imagine what was said, what was done, what was going on in the trailer with Jason Sides going up and down coast to coast, as he mentioned there. And he taught him a lot about life. Crawley is, remember, this kid is 16 years old. I'm sure Jason Sides taught him a lot. Probably more about life than about racing, to be completely honest with you, knowing Jay. And so I'm sure they had a ton of fun. And Jason probably taught Landon Crawley all kinds of things that he is going to remember for the rest of his life. So, what do you guys think about this move? Do you think it's a good move for Landon Crawley? Do you think it's a good move for Dutcher? The one thing with the Dutcher side of things, I thought for sure, like this, I did not think this was on the table. I thought for sure Dutcher, after running 9 different guys in that car next year, would probably pick somebody up out of those 9. I think Hank Davis was at the top of the list. I think Scott Boguski, the guy that won him a race with the IRA this year, was maybe at the top of the list. But he went with Landon Crawley. And so we'll see how it goes. Let me know your thoughts down in the comment section below. Do you think this is a good move from either side? And who do you think as well? Who do you think gets in the Jason Sides 7S? Does Sides come out of retirement and start driving the car again? I doubt that. But let me know your picks. Who do you think would be a good fit for that car next year with the World of Outlaws? Now, at this time, I would like to thank all of my channel members. As we do every time we get a new channel member, we'd like to thank all of the members that are, channel members as well. These guys are putting in their hard-earned money to support this channel, and I want to give them a shout-out. So Blake Dow, Easy Does It, Skyke, Skaloner, Brent Bear, Ed Minus, Ryan Farnsley, and John O'Neill. And then here in our second column, Daryl Snipey, Matt Parsons, Dave Costi, Ryan Showalter, Nate Trewin, Bill Cinnamon, Kurt Brooks, Jay Hotlaps, Brad Reynolds. And then our final column here, Greg Holcomb, Zemco Racing, Racing Vagabond, Christopher Thacker, Dustin Stahl, Bill Gillis, Cedric Ritchie Racing, Jay Strasser, Fantasy Man, and Dalton Ferris. So Thank you all for your continued support here of the channel. Really, really do appreciate it very much. And everybody else, if you're still watching, make sure to subscribe, hit the like button, and comment down below. We'll talk to you guys again here maybe tomorrow or maybe today. I saw there was another announcement potentially coming for a different driver and team later on tonight, so we could be having another video coming out later on, but we'll talk to you guys again here soon.